Today we are doing something a little unhinged. So as you can see, I already have my Gel X tips on, but you will never imagine what these are. Yes, folks, I am currently wearing Beetles Tip X. And under these tips is a Modelones base coat, and I glued these on with a Gowie solid gel glue. Now I know what you're thinking. She's officially lost her dang mind. And I'm thinking the same thing. But see, the thing is, I constantly get questions about Tip X. Well, if Beetles is bad, what about their tips? And the reality is that their tips are kind of fire. I have very, very flat nail beds, but I love the look of an apex, and this does just that. Now, you'll see in closer shots what I'm talking about. Every brand, regardless of how bad the brand is generally, is going to have its hits and its flops. So I decided I would try to look for the best product in what I find to be the worst brands. And so I have carefully selected these products by their formulation. And I'm just generally really curious if the formula is correct. Because especially with the Beetle stuff, the SDS doesn't match. So I'm just going off of the ingredients in the back of the box and hoping that that's the correct ones, or otherwise this is not going to go well. And then this is actually the Modelones standard base and top coat. Like, this is not even their HEMA free version, but the ingredients on the back is just acrylic copolymers. So fingers crossed. And then of course, everybody is wondering whether the Beetles HEMA free is actually HEMA free, especially considering that on the package they don't intentionally add HEMA. So let's see if they unintentionally add it. This is probably one of the greatest risks I've ever knowingly taken, but I am really curious to find out. And I know what you guys are thinking, but honestly, I really hope that this goes well, because this is a whole new product line opened up for allergic girlies. And although I believe Beetles has done so much damage to the nail industry that I don't think I could forgive them and actually purchase Beetle stuff regularly, for those who already have it, it would be nice to know that they are relatively safe. Let's cut to the application, shall we? All right, so let's introduce our products here. First up, we have the Gowie glue, and here are the ingredients. Then we have the Modelones base and top, and now we're going to be using the Beetles Tip X. Now, I figured I was going to have to go smaller on the sizing because the apex is huge, but it's actually really consistent with the sizing of all my other tips. Now, these are pre-etched, but just trust me on this, always etch them anyway. The retention is going to be significantly better. Now we're just going to apply some dehydrator and then go in with our base coat. This brush is pretty bad, but we have to manage our expectations here for the cost of this. I actually really like the consistency. It glides on, but it's not super thin to where it'll flood easy. Okay, and now for the moment we've all been waiting for, we're just gonna scoop up some glue here with a tip. Now, this is the first time I've used a solid glue in like a year, so it's a learning curve. You always have to play around with the amounts, and it does take a little getting used to. I actually do not like solid glues. I much prefer liquids. I don't know. I just find them easier to work with, but maybe that's just because it's what I'm used to. Now, the thumb was a little too much glue, so I learned from that one, and then with the rest, I use significantly less. And there's really just no tips or no magic quick way to know how much exactly to use, because it all depends on how much space is between your natural nail and the high apex of this tip. And that is why I always say with Gel X, you really need to use a good product, because while you're getting the hang of it, and every time you use a new product, you need to get the hang of it, you're going to flood. It's inevitable. That's also why it's best to just stick to one product when you've already found something that works. Because with my Bling Galleria Builder Gel, I can do perfect application every time with no flooding, because I've already gotten the hang of the consistency and how much exactly I need for my nails. In fact, I decided to try it on just one finger of my dominant hand because I was really curious to see if I could make this work with a liquid glue despite the super duper high apex. And so I just slathered quite a bit on there, and it actually did work pretty well. And I very much preferred it to the solid glue. But since the solid glue is what we were testing, I went ahead and did the rest of the fingers on my dominant hand with the solid glue. Also on this hand, I figured I'd try a different technique and try to just scoop up some of the glue with my cuticle pusher and kind of glob a little ball of it and then apply the tip to see if that was easier than scooping it up with the tip. It was not. And here's my finished dominant hand. I will be completely honest, I absolutely despised working with this. I don't like it at all. It's not solid enough to not go everywhere. It's sticky. It's just a mess. I much prefer a liquid glue like my Bling Galleria here. But I mean, it works and it feels like the retention on this is going to be really good. And I will check back in and see if this gave me a reaction. As for the Beetles Tip X, I'm in love. I am. I really am. I love the apex that this gives. I mean, look at this. My natural nails could never, even if I tried sculpting it, it would take forever and a ton of product to get an apex this high on my super, super flat nail beds. Okay, and we are back 24 hours later. Now, as y'all can see, there was no reaction, which is great. However, I don't think I will ever be using this again. I did not like anything about it, but that is just personal preference. All right, now, moment of truth. This stuff smells awful, and the brush sucks too, but the color itself, though, is quite nice, and it's quite a perfect match to my skin tone. All right, and here we are. So I will check back in tomorrow. So it's the next day, and I woke up at 4 in the morning because I was itching so bad. And I went and put some Benadryl cream on. So here we are. It is now 11:15 in the morning, and it has subsided quite a bit. The reaction is not extreme, which is what makes me think that it's HEMA. Oddly enough, HEMA is one of my mildest reactions, with my worst reaction being acrylonitrile, where my sidewalls will literally separate from my nail bed and bleed. So because it's quite mild, that's what makes me think that it's just HEMA. And that would make sense because I can't really say that Beetles lied in this instance, because on the back of the box, it literally says, "We do not intentionally add HEMA." So clearly it's unintentionally added. The worst part about this is that I can already picture the comment section and the barrage of hate that I'm gonna get from this. I can feel the scalding stares from the TikTok shop sellers, and I could hear the gears turning on how they're going to spin this to make it my fault. So can't wait for that. But honestly, I'm just as disappointed as they are, because I actually had hope. I have been reaction free for 6 months and we have broken that streak, but I had high hopes. But Beetles just continues to let me down. I will have no idea what caused the reaction, but according to the ingredients on the bottle and the SDS sheet, there is nothing in there that should have made me react. So it's gotta be trace HEMA. But again, because the SDS and the bottle don't match, we have no idea what is actually in this stuff. Also, before you come for me, the problem isn't having a tiny bit of HEMA potentially in the formula. The problem is not being transparent about it. And they don't legally have to be. If it's under a certain percentage, they can still call it HEMA-free. However, it's super shady. But are we surprised? Because that's basically their company motto at this point. On the bright side, and I never thought I would say this, but green light on the Modelones base and top coat, and also the Gaui glue. I did really hate working with this, and I'm probably never going to use it again. I just prefer liquids, but that's a personal preference thing. Nothing wrong with this product. And as far as the Modelones base and top go, yeah, these are surprisingly decent. Now, if you don't have an allergy, is this less allergenic than the black bottles? Absolutely, 100%. If you do have an allergy, I would avoid this like the plague. But also, this right here is $7 a bottle. So why would you pay $7 a bottle for something that you have no idea what's actually in it, when you could pay $7 a bottle for a professional brand? Like there's literally just no reason to defend this. As far as the tips go, I kind of love these. I do. I would be lying if I said I didn't love them. If you use these tips, slay on. They didn't give me any issues, and I really, really did like these. Y'all know that if there is one thing I'm going to be is honest 100% of the time, no matter how I feel about the brand as a whole. If the product is good, it's good. And if it sucks, it sucks. Again, this is just my experience, my opinion, alleged, blah, blah, blah. And once again, I can't really say Beetles is lying because they did put that disclaimer on the back of the bottle. But now I see why they did it, you sneaky snakes. So that when this happens, you can't say you didn't warn me. Touché. What a shame, because I actually really, really love this base color. But into the trash it goes. This is a good time to talk about properly disposing of gel products, because these are hazardous products, and I've seen a lot of people just throwing these in the trash. Do not do that. Every county should have a hazardous waste disposal So whenever I can get to the dump, which I go pretty often to recycle boxes, then I'll just go ahead and take these in. Another thing you can do if you live really far from a hazardous waste disposal is to dump all of it out and cure it. But I'd rather just drive to the disposal. These are some really, really toxic chemicals that would end up in our waterways, affect animals, etc. They're also highly flammable. So just make sure that you're properly disposing of these. It's a little inconvenience, but it goes a long way. All right, and that is all for this one. Unfortunately, this didn't go the way I wanted it to, but such is life. It actually subsided a few hours after filming that video. Swelling went down. And this is why I love trying stuff on myself. Yeah, obviously it's a risk, but I do love that I have the ability to kind of demonstrate if something has the ingredients that it claims to have, and so that I can warn others. So if you do have an allergy, definitely avoid this one. If you don't, it's a much better alternative to the regular black bottles. I kind of love the set. This color is perfect for my skin tone, and I just love the Aphex. So it's a shame. I was really hoping that it was going to be fine. There are tons of other products out there that are much more affordable than the Beetles HEMA free. So I will be testing a couple of those coming up as well. We've got JR, Rosier, and RAR JSM. Jesus Christ. Every time I have to say those. So yeah, stay tuned for those. But I'm going to give myself a little break with the cheap stuff for now. As always, if you aren't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. All right, Russies, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next one.